Hello to our fifth interview in our series about secularization interviews with friars from all around the world. We were in Poland, we were in France, we were in Germany, and today we are in Canada, very far away. Brother Louis, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Brother Louis Cinq-Mars. I'm a Capuchin friar from the Sacred Heart province in Quebec, the French-speaking province in Canada. I just celebrated 20 years of Capuchin life last week. I'm a former provincial minister. I was provincial minister in this province for 8 years. And I'm just coming back from a 1-year sabbatical in France, where I stayed. I stayed in one of the Saint Lawrence of Brindisi fraternity in Clermont-Ferrand. So that was a great experience for me, and I see a connection as well with the interview we're doing today. So maybe I will share some of my insights from that very inspiring experience.
Yeah. So as you know, Louis, we did an interview with Mitya, and
yes.
He's also involved in that community. And this is a very fascinating, intriguing experiment idea that's happening in the order. And we were very inspired by what he had told us. So maybe you could take just a minute or two and tell us what was kind of your inspiration for wanting to go there, and what was kind of just your general experience of living there?
To say the truth, at the end of my term terms as provincial minister, I was looking for an experience or a place or some possibility to revive my personal life as a religious, And I've heard about that project, the last chapters, and also through the letters from our former General Minister Mauro, especially the letter on reviving, reflaming, or rekindling, and remember our charism, which was a very, very inspiring letter for me, very inspiring letter. And when I heard about those small groups of friars who were trying something new, I really felt drawn to expose myself, to expose myself to that experience and try to see what is inspiring, how I connect with that. And I just came back a week ago, 6 days ago. To say the truth, I'm still my body is here in Montreal, but my mind and my heart are still over there. Mm-hmm. I found a group of friars and a group of fraternity who are willingly trying to refocus or to re-embrace, as you say oftentimes in English, re-embrace a posture in life. I consider the original posture of Capuchin life. A posture where the spiritual life, or the experience of God, of a spiritual life in brotherhood, is really the center, the focus. We all want to do it. We're all at the same here for that. And this is the main body, the main core of what we want to live together. We want to pray together. We want to be in silence together. We want to live intentionally and with intensity community life. And that's not perfect. We all know that community life is sometimes a grace, sometimes a pain. But there's a faithfulness to prayer and to community life that bears fruits, really, really. And from that posture, embraced commonly all together, we wanted to listen to the cry, the cry of the poor and the call of the Holy Spirit, but from that space, you know, and that's very important. From that space that we share together and that we really were committed to experiment. Just it's very. When I came here, some friars told me it must have been very demanding, you know, to live that life where we pray 4 hours a day, and so on and so on. We have all meals together and meetings and recreation, weekly meetings, weekly recreation. I said, no, it's not tiring. Actually, it's relaxing because we don't need to argue on those essentials. They are, that's the base, you know. We don't waste time to argue about, is this mandatory? Do we have to be there? No, yes, we have to be there. That's clear. So actually, it's very relaxing. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Sorry for the long introduction.
That's very good.
Okay.
Louis, our series focuses on secularization, and it is, you know, sometimes when you think about secularization, we like to look at Europe. I personally come from Europe,
Okay.
but I think we can both agree, or we can all agree, that secularization is a part of our reality.
Yeah.
Also in North America. So I would like to maybe ask you to explain, how do you understand secularization? How do you experience it in France, and how do you experience it in Canada, in the society that you live in, but maybe also in your life as a Capuchin?
Yeah. It's good for you to know that Quebec is probably one of the most secularized society in the world, you know, with maybe Australia or France. But when I was a provincial minister, I could see the difference. I traveled many times. I lived in the United States for a while. I could see the difference. You're still, the United States is still, I mean, faith and the connection with God is still a place. It's still common, but in Quebec, as in France, we live in a society where from a sociological point of view, faith, church, belief in God, and the society are the civil institutions, the state, or very apart, you know, divided. There's no connection. And in Quebec, there is still, not only there is no connection, but there is still a resentment towards church and religion. And so there's a mistrust, you know, in Quebec. So I'm sure you have heard a lot of definitions at this point of secularization from a sociological point of view. You know, this distinction. I like to use the word emancipation. I don't know if it's an English word, you know, but when the civil society became adult, you know, in a way, and an adult in front of facing another adult, which is the faith or church, and I think that's good. That's positive, and it's probably even some say that's a fruit of Christianity. You know, that the state, the society becomes adult and autonomous, you know, in front of church and faith and religion. So it's happening, as you say, everywhere in the Western world. It's really happening. It's a process that is happening. Sometimes we Christians, we Catholics, tend to be very critical, to mistrust secularization. And I watched a video on YouTube from a famous cardinal of our church that is very full of mistrust, and also see the secularization as the source, the cause of all our problems in the church. And so we could make a bit what's the word, scapegoat, or the bouc émissaire. I forgot the word in English, but the one responsible of our problems, because I think it's not honest. from a more philosophical point of view, have here a famous philosopher Charles Taylor. I don't know if you have heard about him or read his work. He wrote a very thick book on secularization, named and titled "The Secular Age," and it's more from a philosophical point of view. And he says it trying to describe our society today, our state today as a passage from, I have it here, a passage from a society where belief in God or belief in a transcendent power was common and uncontested, to a society where belief is one possibility, one option among others, and even believing in God is yeah, it's one option, and where we live side by side with believers and non-believers, with believers in different faith, we live side by side, and we're all involved in the construction of the civil society all together. So it's a major shift for us believers and for us Christians. And also, I think I see two consequences in Quebec, as I saw in France, but very strongly in Quebec. Faith was confined to private life, to the realm of privacy, private life, and also we lost in Quebec. We lost all that were common references, common collective references. So our contemporaries, and especially young people, are left in front of many options, and they have to manage their identity, their meaning alone, all by themselves. And Charles Taylor and other philosophers, psychologists, they talk about the fatigue of being, today, the fatigue, where you get tired of being and tired of trying to find your own answers on such a large scale and market of proposals. I think that's one of the main change today. Yeah.
You had a very good insight. You actually anticipated one of the questions we were going to have about what is the good in this. And you mentioned an insight that we haven't heard yet is that this kind of emancipation of secular society from the church, or this kind of maturation of society from being under the paternity of the church, or maternity, if you will. And you see this as a good thing. So working from that, what else do you see as a good consequence of this going in deeper into the 21st century? And maybe more specifically, where's the hope for us as Capuchin Franciscans? Or what unique position do you think we will play in this reality of definite separation between church and secular society?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we still have to acknowledge and accept the fact that we have lost the power we used to have, the power we claimed, the power we had through our institutions, and reset or reposture ourselves as people of faith, people who are not only promoting morals or values, but people who are really daily, honestly experiencing the relationship with a transcendent God, And I think that's, but it's very personal, what I'm sharing now. But I think that's probably a path for us Capuchins to redefine ourselves as religious men, you know, men who are have taken seriously the relationship with God, the relationship with the transcendent, and that relationship is the core, the center, the reference, the key, the the block, you know, on which, on whom, on what, on which we build everything. We decide everything. We make our choices, decisions. So, and that we share openly with people our journey. Um, my understanding of us, also what happened in secularization is the positive thing is also the maturity of the emerging of the individual, you know, the person, the individuality, the autonomy of the individual, and the experience, the individual experience. So I think it's a challenge for us to see ourselves, or to see ourselves and to show ourselves as men who are engaged, committed on a spiritual journey, rather than men who are promoting morals or values or commitments, which are good, but I think it has to come second, especially in a society where lay people can do it, and can do it sometimes better than us, you know. And so, yeah, that would be my point for now. Yeah. Is that clear, or does it bring more confusion to you?
Crystal clear. Yeah.
It's very good. And, you know, I kind of notice, like you mentioned several times, you know, how our society nowadays is so individualized, and, you know, like
Yes.
where people are, you know, what religion is kind of part of my personal private life. And, you know, I kind of feel like maybe our way of life can be a response, you know, to this phenomenon, you know, our life in community and our sharing faith and community, but also, as you mentioned, you know, like inviting people um, to share their experience with us, but also sharing our experiences
Yes.
with them. And I think, you know, I that's something that I really, you know, admire about Clermont-Ferrand, this very simple Capuchin life.
Yes,
You
it
know,
is very
it's
simple.
basically, you know, like our way of life can be our ministry.
Yes, yes,
We don't
yes.
need to do anything special.
Yeah, yeah. It has to be it has to be our first ministry. Yes, yes. Um, I like what you're saying, Thomas, and I think also we need to be very honest and look at our lives, our lifestyles, especially in the Western world, and ask ourselves how much have we been um, influenced, contaminated, I don't know if it's the correct word in English, by secularization. And I know I was attending the general chapter in 2018, and Brother Morrow raised that question, you know, how much our way of life, um, yeah, has been also shaped by secularization and the values of secularization. How much private life is now important in our common life, you know, or more important than our common life, you know. And to be honest, if you look around, if I look around, I see in my province, and I've seen that in other provinces, personal life, private life is very important. And sometimes it's first, you know, especially when it comes to weekends. And look at the schedules in our houses. How many of our houses on weekends are free of prayers, of common prayers? You know, it's weekend, but this is not a value. This is not religious life. It's the life of people who are working. You know, weekend we're off. You know, how many friars are willing to have a faith sharing on Saturday evening? You know, I was very surprised in Clermont-Ferrand, intentionally, and I see you smiling, intentionally in Clermont-Ferrand, faith sharing was on Saturday evening, you know? So,
You know, I'm smiling. I'm smiling because Saturday evening is like, you know, the holy time,
that's
whatever that means. You know, like
yeah, it's the only time
it's
for fun.
yeah, exactly.
It's the only time to have my life, that with my friends, to go out, you know? And yeah, so
But the
that's
question is, what is holy for me?
yeah, yes, yeah. What is first? What is first? Really, what is
Yeah.
first, and what is shaping my life? You know,
Exactly.
and I also see how much autonomy and independence has become a value in our life, in our way of life. You know, and for me, might be simplistic, but the number of cars around the house or houses is a clear symbol of how independence is important. You know, I don't want to deal with another friar when I need a car. You know, my independence is first, sacred. You know, in Clermont we had 2 cars for 8 friars. You know, so we really oftentimes we had to sit and say, well, how are we going to do? You know, to manage this transportation, this visit, this ministry. Um, it creates, yeah, we rely on each other. We are dependent on one another. We're not independent of one another. We're dependent on one another. And these are values we need to claim, because they are sacred values for us, you know. Yeah. These are
Thank you
very simplistic example. I apologize if they are too.
No, it's very good, and I think you just wrapped up the whole thing in a very good way.
Okay.
I just would like to thank you for this interview, for sharing your wisdom, your insights with us, your experiences, and I really appreciate it. And I hope that, you know, the friars from our province can also learn something from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
You're
Luke.
welcome. And thank you for your work. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think it's very important. The first province I've heard about that is really taking seriously what's happening in our world and trying to respond to that as Capuchins. I really appreciate it. I hope that will be fruitful for your province and also for our conference. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, brother. God bless.
Congratulations. Yeah.